maybe there's that whole like herd mentality thing where the kids, they don't have someone to guide them. They don't know their history, so they misinterpret everything. So they think that grown-ups are evil and they want to kill them.
Perhaps I could use this as an excuse to go to those far-off planets with little polka-dotted people if necessary, and be able to talk about love, war, nature, God, sex, all those things that go to make up the excitement of the human condition.
I'm Captain James Kirk.
Spock.
Your move, Captain. Jim Kirk of the Enterprise.
What's going on?
I'm James Kirk. These people are my friends and my shipmates. Leave my crew alone.
Out of the question.
How about that?
James Kirk.
It fits like a glove, Captain.
Oh, the bonehead ideas.
Gentlemen, I'm Captain James Kirk. Get out of my chair. Get out of it now.
My greetings and felicitations, Captain. So good of you and your officers to, drop in. Absolutely smashing.
Hey everybody, welcome to Humanist Trek. It's a Star Trek podcast about the humanism in Star Trek. I'm Sarah Ray.
And I'm Allie Ashmead.
And welcome to this week's episode.
Hey everybody.
So, Halloween just ended.
Yeah, it's over, thank God. I had to get that candy out of my house. But I'm sitting here eating your candy that you guys have, because I have no control.
We live in a new construction neighborhood, and our street just finished out. So we're in like the new part, like phase 2 or whatever phase we're in. So the old neighborhood was hopping. Mm-hmm. They were all set up and had like...
But nobody wants to come over here and step on nails and shit.
That's so true. So Becca stayed home to hand out candy because she's got a bionic knee and doesn't like to walk the whole neighborhood like that. She'd be done before you get started. So I took the kids and we went all over, and there were some really good decorations, some real spooky, couple of spooky houses. And the kids were just like, yeah, okay, whatever. There's candy up there. I'm going to go get it. They weren't scared. It was good.
It's cool.
How about your haunted decor?
Some of the kids were a little bit scared, but they were like, "Oh, this is cool." It was something simple because I'm kind of, like I said, building up my
starting
decorations again.
Yeah.
And I had this stuffed dude that I think we've named him Melted Marvin because he.
That reminds me of those Garbage Pail Kids cards. You know what I'm talking about? No? How do you not know what Garbage Pail Kids are?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, man. I had an old school desk. So we're going to get way off track.
It's okay.
My dad built me a 2-story clubhouse in our backyard. And it had like a fire pole in it because I was big into Ghostbusters at the time.
Oh, yeah, cool.
That was really cool. But anyway, I had an old school desk that they'd gotten from a rummage or something. I don't know. And these Garbage Pail Kids, they were like trading cards that you could collect, but they were stickers. Mm-hmm. And I had this whole desk covered inch for inch in these stickers. And I'm going to try to find you some pictures of Garbage Pail Kids. This is not at all where we were going to talk about today.
That's okay. Why am I cracking up so much?
Here's one. Whiz Kid William.
Okay.
Okay. And it's a kid standing next to a urinal pissing on a bunch of books.
What the hell?
So they were like Cabbage Patch Kids, but the bad ones.
Oh, guys. Okay, listeners got to look that up, man. That's hilarious.
Anyway, I had 100,000 of these things.
Nice. I don't know why I don't know what they are. But Melted Marvin we just came up with that name.
I love it.
But all it is really I just bought this really scary scarecrow like costume from like Hot Spirit of Halloween.
Okay.
And I just stuffed it with something like pillows and blankets, and he's got a head, and then it didn't come with pants, so I had to I had to find my own pair of my own pants to put the stuff. So he's sitting out in front. He looks like a person, but he kind of looks like he's just
melted
and lumpy. He's very lumpy. So I put him out there. I had an ugly baby doll, creepy baby doll, sitting in the other chair. And I had spiders, and I had tombstones and weird lighting and body parts, plastic body parts all over, hands sticking up out of the ground. And then I put my USB speaker out there and I played spooky music on repeat. I also had a ghost hanging at the door, so anytime they walked by, it would start going woo and light up. And I mean, I think the kids loved it. They were a little bit scared, but we had a lot of kids come by.
Good.
And even after I turned off my light, they were coming by, and it was like 9:30. I'm like, dude, I'm done, but they're still knocking on the door.
We had a rash of candy stealings.
Really?
So I happen to have an account on Nextdoor, which should be called, I don't know, like Boomer Tube or Boomer Book or something like that, because it's usually just old people bitching about shit.
Stuff.
Yeah. So, but there were like, you know, people in their Ring videos or whatever of kids coming up to their house and like taking the bowl and all.
Well,
like,
why aren't you out there?
See, that's what
Why
I'm
the
saying.
fuck aren't you out there?
But like also, like, I understand that you want to be part of the thing. Like, oh, I want to do Halloween, but I have to work or whatever, and I can't be there. So I'm
not
gonna
be part of the
I'm going to
thing.
set some candy out for the kids. I get that.
Yeah.
But also, kids are dicks. So there you go.
But yeah, I mean, I guess. Yeah.
And there's also some very sweet videos going around of kids like coming up to a house and seeing an empty bowl and like taking some of the candy out of their bag to put back into the bowl for the next kids.
Oh, wow.
It was really sweet.
That's so sweet.
Little humanists running around.
Oh.
And then Christmas is coming. So we are the people that, and we should have had the Becca in here to talk about this part. We are people who, and this is new this year, who will take down Halloween on October 31st and put up Christmas on November 1st.
I've never done it before, but I'm totally, I am buying Christmas stuff and I'm ready to put it up. Yeah. So, but I've never done it this early.
We only put out like the wreath and the doormat and that, you know, that little thing at the door. But there's a lot of people with a lot of opinions about when you can decorate. Look, we come from, first of all, these are like two things playing into this, right? So first of all, Becca grew up in a high control religious cult that didn't allow them to celebrate holidays.
Yep.
Right. So Christmas is a BFD here at the Ray House. And then also, like, this is a 3-part thing. Also, we come from Disney, where literally
it's every day.
Halloween comes down on the 31st and Christmas goes up
for 2 months.
Yeah, exactly. So we're kind of used to that because we worked in the parks.
Yeah.
And then the third piece of that is like, we've kind of discussed this before, like we don't really celebrate Thanksgiving as a holiday.
Yeah.
So like, I get it. It's still fall. So if you want to keep your fall decor out, that's cool and whatever, but we're celebrating Christmas and you can just suck it if you don't like that.
Hell yeah.
That's where we're at.
And I grew up super poor, so I never really got to do any of the stuff. So as an adult, I love doing any kind of decorations. And now that I'm, you know, I have control of what decorations to put up and it's only me making the decisions, that's just going up as soon as possible. And I'm like buying as much stupid Christmas shit as I can.
We blew too much money on Halloween. We should have saved it for Christmas. But anyway, like there's
it's so much fun.
There's part of this that this is a growth that I've had as a human over the past, I don't know how many years. And that is like, I used to be one of those people that jumps on the bandwagon of like, oh, you're into pumpkin spice everything. Oh, it's pumpkin spice season. And you know, I have a friend back home and we still like send memes back and forth about pumpkin spice everything. But like, you know, I would tease people in what I thought was a friendly way. But then I learned like, don't yuck my yum, right? So if you like all the pumpkin spice whatever shit, what do I care? Yeah. Right? So I should just leave you alone and let you enjoy the things that you enjoy. Yeah. And that's kind of how I feel about like, there were a lot of people who were very, Christmas doesn't go up until after Thanksgiving. Yeah. And I'm like, cool, well, we're not doing Thanksgiving, so I can put Christmas up whenever the fuck I want.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, just like let people enjoy shit.
Yeah, I think I used to be that way too. I was like, oh, here we go again. You know what? I need to stop being such a grouch.
Yeah.
And let people
just
do what they
enjoy your thing, man.
Let people do what they love to do, and and why ruin it? Why piss on it?
Right.
Let's stop pissing on people's shit.
Okay, so before we get into the episode today, I have a surprise for you.
Me?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a gift.
What?
So I know I talked about this. Well, I think we talked about this. I have for you an official Humanist Trek magnet pin.
Oh, that's so cool.
They're like 2.5 inches tall. And when I ordered it, I intended it to be like a communicator badge.
I love it. This is perfect.
Like wear with your uniform.
This is going to be whatever uniform I make. We'll get a picture.
So it's the little happy humanist symbol, and he's got a little Star Trek communicator badge on his chest.
This is awesome.
I have 100 of these.
Awesome. Can we give them away to our listeners?
We can give them away. We can sell them. I was thinking like, excuse us while we have an on-air show meeting. I was thinking like, I don't know what tool or material I would use, but we could hand number them and make it like a rare thing. And like, I'm not going to order any more. There's 100 of these in this style.
There's some kind of laser etching we could do or have someone do.
Yeah. So like we could give them away as like contest prizes. We could we could give them to the top level patrons.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of things we could do with them.
They're cute. We'll put a picture on the website for this episode.
Yeah. We'll put it on the socials and all the things so you can see it. Oh, should I take a picture of you?
No, I'll put.
You're gonna do
the
a
last
selfie.
Picture you took of me. No.
Okay, you do your own picture. Hey, I am not a photographer. I work in the audio medium for a reason.
I love it. Absolutely love it. I'm totally wearing this to the cruise.
Oh hell yeah!
When I go on the Star Trek cruise in February.
I thought it'd be a good conversation starter too. Like, what is that?
It's the humanist.
Oh, it's the humanist Star Trek.
Love it.
Cool.
Good job, Sarah. This is awesome.
All right. Well, let's get into our episode today then. It is Star Trek, the original series, Season 1, Episode 9, Miri.
Sir, contact with an object. It's moving toward us. No visual contact yet.
Deflectors, full intensity.
Mr. Sulu, yes, Captain. Anything on your scanners?
It's coming at light speed.
Collision course. Visual contact.
Anything, over?
All wavelengths dominated by ionization effects, sir.
All engines full stop.
We open on the bridge. The Enterprise is picking up an old school distress signal, like an SOS, which they get a lot of these. Like, oh, it's an old style Earth signal.
I know they don't ever get like an alien signal.
Right.
Like,
so, but as far as they know, there aren't any ships or colonies out this far. So, like, I don't know what this is. Spock starts rattling off a bunch of measurements of this planet, and then he finally says the atmosphere is oxygen, nitrogen, and Janice exclaims, "Earth!"
Well, he also says that it's the third planet in the solar system, which is
I didn't even catch that.
The third rock from the sun. That's us, and,
right?
and the circumference, and then all the other stuff, the mass and the atmosphere.
Now, on the view screen, we get a view of the planet, and it's the African continent.
Mm-hmm.
And Kirk's like, "Wait, another Earth?" And then we cut back to the view screen, and now it's North America.
Mm-hmm.
And then they fade out to theme.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. So other than budget, like, I'm sure the issue was budget, but like a duplicate Earth, we'll come back to that.
There were some unanswered questions in this episode.
Yes, there were. And that was one of them. After the theme, Kirk decides that they're going to beam down near the origin of the distress call, see if they can figure out what's going on. When they beam down, they appear in what has to be one part of the answer to the Starfleet Academy Cadet Challenge, right? These sets.
Yes.
Like this is Mayberry after the apocalypse, though.
Totally.
What are you yelling about? Like you said, you broke the law by making an illegal U-turn, and I hereby, as a citizen of the town of Mayberry in the United States of America, arrest you. Hooray! Now, just a minute. What are you talking about?
It's totally Mayberry. I mean, I didn't recognize any stores or anything, but it's totally Mayberry.
Yeah, it's got to be. And there's like chairs out in the old dirt road and like old cars sitting around. Like the buildings look like nobody's been there in ages. This whole episode has it's got real Children of the Corn vibes all over it.
Totally. I hate episodes. Any kind of episode that has children and evil children it creeps me out.
Yeah. Oh, I love me some Children of the Corn.
Oh, I did love some Children of the Corn, though.
My sisters, I have two sisters. They're 11 and 12 years older than me. And we lived in a log cabin for the first 7 years of my life out in the middle of cornfields.
Ooh.
And I remember one year they had
you knew Malachi then.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. He who walks behind the rows. They had a party one year. They were like in high school. I was just a kid. And they had a party one year where like a whole bunch of their friends came over and sat in the living room and watched this on the old console TV, And a couple of the guys snuck out at one point and went out like right out of our backyard was a cornfield.
Yeah.
And of course it was this time of year, so
it's all brown.
It was just all brown stuff. And they pulled some stalks out, took them in the living room, snuck up behind all these people sitting around watching Children of the Corn, and threw these corn stalks into the room.
Oh my!
Freaked everybody the fuck out.
Oh, that's awesome! I would have been screaming my head off.
I was too young; they wouldn't let me join that party.
Oh.
So a red shirt walks alone past a building, and a door swings closed. And then Kirk picks up an old rusted tricycle and hands it to Spock for some reason, who then hands it to McCoy for some reason.
And McCoy's just like looking at it and spinning the wheels. And
Here, Spock, everybody pass around the tricycle. It's show and tell time.
Like here.
McCoy like very gently sets this thing back down on the ground. And from off camera, someone screams, "Mine!"
Yep, some disfigured man comes out and starts attacking McCoy.
Now, did you think this creature thing looked like something out of Jim Henson's Labyrinth to me?
You have no power over me. You have no power over me.
His skin was like pinkish purple and he had like a blonde wig on, but he was, disfigured.
Yeah. He jumps out and tackles McCoy. And then Spock and Kirk pull him off, and Kirk lands a couple punches. And then this guy starts sobbing about his tricycle being broken.
And he's like, somebody broke it and ask somebody to
Please
fix it.
Kirk tries to explain, like, hey, we're just here to help. But then this guy goes into convulsions and dies.
And he dies. He just
drops dead.
Oh my God! They've killed
Humanoid with the mind of a child.
you, bastards!
So McCoy pulls out his scanner and he's too late, duh. But
this guy is having convulsions, and the doctor just stands by and does nothing.
Oh, he did. Oh, let me take out my scanner. And he's like, he says his metabolic rate is impossibly high, which he's dead. So I don't get that. But as if he's burning itself up. He says, as if it's aged a century in the past few minutes, and he looks like a grown man, but because of like what he was saying, seemed like he had the mind of a child.
So they hear footsteps and take off running. Then they hear a door swing shut and run over to investigate it. So there's a lot of like off-camera sounds, and they can't see anybody there making these sounds. They go inside this place, and the inside of this place to me looked like Grandma's house was ransacked by burglars and then left to sit for a couple hundred years. Kirk opens a closet door, and there's a frightened girl inside. Kirk sends Spock and the red shirts back outside to keep searching. Spock picks up something on the tricorder, and we get a shot of someone like rubbing circles in the dirt on the window, like to make a hole to see out. And then we get a shot like through that hole of Spock walking towards the building.
Yep.
I thought that was a really cool camera angle. Back in the house, the girl is starting to explain what's going on. And I felt some type of way about this whole scene.
Was it cringy to you?
It was super cringe.
Okay.
Super cringe.
I've been over that in my head, and I've got some thoughts about that. But I know, so this girl appears to be what? I don't know, 13?
Teenaged.
14, like not 16 for sure, but not 10 either. So somewhere between 10 and...
Young enough that Kirk shouldn't be flirting with her.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It's so... And maybe it was okay back in that day, but
maybe.
I just... No, what we know now, I don't like this at all.
That felt real bad in a lot of ways.
Wrong. Yeah.
Well, and not only like the age thing, but like she comes across as a person who like was locked in a room her whole life, you know, and I don't know.
She's
it's just
like
weird.
a sort of like a Charlie X.
Yeah.
A female Charlie X.
A little bit.
And then she goes straight for Kirk. But okay, so so Miri, this girl named Miri, she starts talking about like how she remembers what the Grups did. Now Grups are
there's a lot of language things in this episode.
Yeah. So Grups are what they call grown-ups, and the younger ones are called onlys.
Mm-hmm.
And she's talking about what the Grups did. They killed and they maimed all the children on the planet before they died out. And the Grups actually just got sick.
Right.
And so McCoy thinks it's some kind of plague. And she calls her and her friends, her younger friends, onlys, which are the only ones left. And
it's like all the onlys hid.
Right.
Until the Grups were finally gone.
And Kirk finally asks her name, and she says it's Miri. And he's like, pretty name for a pretty young girl. And it's like she's never been called pretty before. And it's a bit creepy because, again, she's too young and she's got these stars in her eyes only for Kirk.
Yeah.
And it's fucking weird.
Well, and the way he said it, too. Like the tone of his voice and the way he kind of like trails off. And it's all very sexualized.
It's not a good... I was very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Spock and the Red Shirts, that's my new band name, by the way. Spock and the Red Shirts.
I love
Hell
it.
yeah. They're out in the streets and they turn down an alley. Spock walks by an old fire escape ladder and we hear some movement up at the top. And Spock calls for the guards who come around the corner, but now there's nobody on the stairs. And I don't know if you noticed this, but this was entirely in service of him looking up and not seeing anybody at the top of the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
All of the guards went left around these stairs, and Spock went between the ladder and the wall of the building, which was barely wide enough for him to he had to move a plant out of his way and squeeze through here. No point to do that. He could have easily just walked around with the other guards.
Drama. They gotta have drama.
Spock starts to climb up the ladder now, but he hears this sing-songy voices of the children.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I just want to smack them all. I want to smack them. Oh.
Super creepy Children of the Corn vibes. So he hops back down and he slowly walks back towards the street when rocks start falling from above and the voices start singing again. Spock goes back to the house and KSM kind of share their findings with each other. Kirk thinks there's got to be some records somewhere and asks Miri if there's a building where the doctors used to work. And she says it's a bad place, but agrees to take him there.
So then she asks Kirk what his name is. And he says James. And then we have another awkward exchange.
This whole thing, this weird romantic shit. The string section kind of swells up in the music, and
there shouldn't be anything romantic that's happening. There should not be.
Oh, he puts his hand under her chin to lift her out of.
I'm like, what? So he says, "My name is James." She's like, "I like that name," and he says, "Well, I like yours too." And then he says, "I like you too," and I'm like, "Fuck, stop it." Okay, and then they say stuff like, "Oh, we won't lie to each other."
Right.
And she says he's different from the other Grups because he's nice. And then that's when, he does the creepy face touch her chin. But then that's when he sees this purple lesion on his hand.
And that's how it started with the Grups. She says, it'll soon spread all over you. You'll hurt everybody and then you'll die. Inside the building where the doctors worked, they also found the transmitter that sent the automated distress call that led them to the planet in the first place. All of the humans in the landing party now have these blue splotches. Only Spock appears to be immune.
I want to be a Vulcan, I swear.
Right?
He's he's the most important person, I swear, on these episodes because he doesn't get sick and he's always the one that figures shit out.
McCoy is using this old lab equipment here to see if he can figure out what's causing the disease and why it's not affecting Spock. He radios up for some better equipment, and Spock and McCoy have a little rap battle here. Well, these viruses don't like your green blood.
Oh, my God. There he goes. I got to say, at every episode, he looks for any opportunity to be racist.
Yep. And Spock shoots back well, having red blood clearly has its disadvantages.
I'm like, oh, score one.
Classic Spock McCoy. Kirk and Spock discover something interesting in the documents lying around. Apparently, the people here were working on prolonging human life, and that experiment must have gotten out of hand. The Enterprise sends down some better equipment that can also tie into the ship's computers so they can get some answers faster. So the question now is, how is it that all the adults died? Apparently 300 years ago, now we figured out, but there are still children on the planet. If all the adults died that long ago, how do we still have children? And those children contract the disease and die upon entering puberty. So there are never any adults to do it and make more kids.
Yeah.
How are these kids still here?
Of course, Spock, he's the logical one. So he's starting to think, okay, there's certain glandular changes that happen at puberty.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, is it not possible that they contract the disease as they enter puberty? It would explain why there's no adults. And he points out that according to the records, all the adults died 300 years ago. And then McCoy's like, well, how do they keep the line going? Because, they're not, they're kids, so they're not procreating.
Kirk says something here that I wanted to pull out. Yo Woman Rand asks why Miri wants to stay with them, since she's basically feral and afraid of grubs. And Kirk suggests loneliness, curiosity, and then he says, I think children have an instinctive need for adults. They want to be told right from wrong.
I had a problem with that. I'm like, no, they don't want to be told.
No.
Because
in fact, that's the last thing they want to be told.
It's the exact opposite. I don't know if Gene Roddenberry was trying to get kids in line here or something, but...
Well, there's a 1960s sensibility that kids should be seen and not heard. And, we parent very differently now than...
For sure.
Than even then.
Because
so, that authoritarian sort of,
back then, very much so.
Yeah.
We're much more kinder, gentler.
Yeah. I hope so.
Different parenting.
Spock kind of course corrects here very gently, and he's like, well, there may be other emotions at work.
Because she likes Jim.
Oh, no, she likes him.
Two likes. She likes him. And
him.
She's becoming a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Cringe.
Spock gets some calculations from the Enterprise. Kirk sends the red shirts back outside, because that's a good idea. And then, like the misogynist pig he is, he asks Miri, why don't you clean up around here, sweetheart?
I think maybe he's just trying to keep her busy.
He's trying to keep her busy, but sure would be nice if you'd clean up around the house every once in a while, honey.
Bitch, this is an apocalypse. Why should I worry about cleaning up? Seriously? But
Spock says what these people thought they were accomplishing was that a person would only age 1 month for every 100 years of actual time, which would make these children really old.
Yeah.
And Spock couldn't get near the other kids. So they were all hiding and ran away every time he, tried to follow them. So Kirk uses Miri's affection for him to talk her into taking him to the other children.
Mm-hmm.
Cut to Children of the Corn meets Peter Pan's Neverland. These kids in that room.
They're so creepy.
There's a bunch of kids in this room now. And they really reminded me of the Lost Boys.
Yep. I mean, they have their own language almost, like you said, the terms.
The onlys and the grups and the what was the one? Hang on, I wrote it down up here.
Oh, foolies.
Foolies,
which means games.
Yeah.
Don't give me any foolies, or I don't want to play any games.
The oldest of these kids, John, is talking about these new grups. And he suggests taking away the Motorola StarTAC so they can't, there's little boxes that they use to talk to each other, so they can't talk to each other anymore. And then the lookout kid spots Miri and Kirk together outside as they walk towards the building. The kids all hide. There's a noise, and then one of the kids, another older one that's been infected with this virus, pops out jump scare out of the closet or whatever, and everybody freaks the fuck out. She jumps on Kirk's back, and they run around the room for a little bit, and he's trying to shake her off, and finally knocks her off and shoots with his phaser. And despite it being set to stun,
she
dies.
Oh my God! They've killed
Louise.
You bastards!
Miri identifies this person as, oh, that's Louise. She says that she was only a little bit older than her.
Mm-hmm.
And she throws herself into, throws herself into Kirk's arms. Oh, Jim. Okay, this is.
Yep.
This is.
Past the line again.
Yeah, crossing the line.
Yep. So she realizes, though, that she's probably next, right? In the sequence of things. This girl was a little bit older than me. I'm probably the next one to get it.
Yeah.
In the very next scene, Miri is sharpening yellow number 2 pencils on a wall sharpener like we had in school.
Yeah.
Again, to keep her busy.
Yep. Oh, that. She's like, is this enough? She's like, no, we need some more pencils. What the fuck do they need pencils for? But yeah, they continue to read the notes.
Weird.
Yeah, it's so stupid. So They continue to read the notes from the lab, and
Spock's learned a lot about this disease now. Like Miri, he's figured out Miri probably only has 5 or 6 weeks, but because they're older,
they only have 7 days.
It'll affect them more rapidly.
Yeah.
And that Spock is a carrier, so like he's not experiencing it, but he is carrying the virus or whatever
so it
is.
must be airborne, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't think we ever really find out what the method of transmission is.
No. We also never find out why that looks so much like Earth. They never even talk about it.
There's another thing in this scene, though, too, and that is like Spock is giving all of this information about the disease. Well, McCoy's standing right there, and he's the doctor. Why did Spock get those lines? Not McCoy, the doctor.
Good point. That's a great point.
So the Enterprise radios down to confirm Spock's calculations. They have 7 days left.
At 5 days left, 2 days have passed. So McCoy finds something in the notes, but it's only partial information. They were meant to create some diseases, like a chain reaction of viruses that were meant to extend the life of the human, but they weren't successful. And then as they're talking, they hear the children taunting again. Nya, 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 nya. Oh my God, it's so silly. But then they all run out of the lab to see where this noise is coming from, but they don't find the kids anywhere. And of course, the kids use this opportunity to steal their communicators.
They're inside the vent in the wall.
Yeah, I know, right?
So now they can't contact the ship.
Because they need that for their calculations.
3 days, 7 hours left. The food supply in the area is running low, and the disease is spreading through them, and they're all getting like real short-tempered, like snapping at each other. Kirk storms past Janice and knocks some beakers out of her hand, and they fall on the ground and shatter.
He's like, fuck this, fuck that.
So she storms out of the room all pissed off, and Kirk follows, and Janice tells him that back on the ship, she used to try to get him to look at my legs.
Oh my.
So she says, but look at my legs.
And then they cut down to her legs, and she's like covering a blue splotch with her hand.
Yep, it's starting.
Miri, meanwhile, Miri is watching all of this, and that's my man, you know. So she's kind of like taking it all in, and it seems like Kirk and Rand's affection is causing some jealousy. So she slips off, and then McCoy has an aha moment. He thinks he's got this disease isolated now. Back at Children of the Neverland, Miri has snuck back in, and she's got a plan.
Right.
She's going to lure Yeoman Rand away from the others so that they can take her out.
Yep.
And have one less grub to deal with.
Yep.
But then Kirk will come and try to find her, so they'll be able to get him too.
So she calls him, she's so jealous. And she's like, well, and when Mr. Lovey-Dovey comes looking for her,
Mr. Lovey-Dovey.
Bonk, bonk on the head. The kids, they love to say bonk, bonk on the head. So everybody, all the kids start chanting, bonk, bonk on the head.
One of them's got a hammer, like beating it on the ground.
Like, they are not right in the head. Like, the way that they're acting, it's like, they just have this, like, what do you call it? Like that weird crowd mentality of, it's so creepy to me. But yeah, the bonk, bonk on the head. McCoy discovers a possible vaccine for the disease, but without the ability to check the dosage with the ship's computers.
It could be fatal.
Yep. He says it could be a beaker full of death. I cracked up at that.
Kirk is like shaking Miri by the shoulders to find out where Janice is. And Miri's a great actor here. She really plays it off. Like, I don't know where Janice is, and she doesn't want anything to happen to Kirk. And KSM are all super agitated now and snapping at each other about finding the star tax so they can test the formula through the ship's computer. Kirk tries to convince Miri that she and all the onlys will eventually catch this disease, go mad, and die themselves unless you let us finish doing this research that we're trying to do. And she's like, no, that only happens sometimes. And he's like, no, it will happen. It happens to all of you.
What the hell, girl? I think she finally, upon realizing that she herself is infected, I don't know if she has does she have a lesion? I can't remember if
I don't know if it's here yet or not. Kirk's like, don't you understand why you don't want to play games anymore? Like,
oh, yeah, that's right. You're
why
growing
you
up.
don't look at other kids the same way? Like, you're growing up, you're becoming a young woman. And yes, look at that. You already got the disease.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she has a lesion and freaks out, and he pulls her in for a hug again.
Ugh, cringe.
Back at Neverland Ranch, the kids are playing school, playing pretend they're playing school.
Because they probably never went to school because they're 300 years old.
Right.
And no adult.
And they've got Janice tied up in the back in a chair. Miri appears at the door with Kirk and tries to get John to listen to him. But the kids start chanting, "Tell them, Jim. Tell them, Jim. Tell them, Jim." Ugh. These kids and they're chanting is real creepy. Kirk tries to convince them that if they don't give back their star tax, there won't be any grups, onlys, or anybody left. Like, everybody's going to die.
They won't have any food left because rations are already low.
One of the kid tries to go at Kirk with a club, but Kirk swats him away real easy. And then the children start their sing-songy stuff again.
Yeah. Bonk, bonk on the head and nya, 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 nya. And then I think they just do a dog pile, but he comes out of it, but he's bloody.
And then he tries to turn it around on them.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, you said it's the grups that were hurting and yelling and killing. Look at you. Now you're doing that. The onlys are the ones doing that now. And he says, look, I'm a grup, but I want to help you before there's nothing left here at all. Back in the lab, Spock and McCoy are arguing about the vaccine. It could be fatal, but they can't test it without their star tax. Spock leaves to check on Kirk, and McCoy decides to take the vaccine himself.
Yeah.
Even if it kills him, because the disease is going to kill him for sure.
Yeah.
So it's a risk he's willing to take.
And I think this is one of the bravest things that McCoy ever I've seen him do so far, because he's such a grumpy person, but he actually took a risk and took one for the team.
And he hits himself with this vaccine, and then he flops down on the desk and yells out for Spock before collapsing onto the floor unconscious. Kirk, Rand, and the kids arrive and find Spock leaning over unconscious McCoy, and slowly the blue splotches on his face start to fade away. So it worked.
Yeah.
But is he alive?
Yeah, he's alive.
He's alive.
He's fine.
It's all good.
He's fine.
And then the button on the episode here, back on the bridge, we learn that they left a medical team behind to stay with the children and contacted Space Central. Again, the specifics of the space organization haven't really been nailed down yet at this part in the Space Central.
Space Central, did they not have they
Starfleet Command?
They did have Starfleet Academy. So I don't know what Space Central is.
Right. But they'll send teachers and advisors, and McCoy says, and truant officers, I presume. Again, sign of the times. Yo Woman Rand tells Kirk, Miri really loved you, you know.
Yeah. But he says he doesn't get involved with older women.
So,
but
Janice rolls her eyes real hard at that.
I would have.
Way to go, Janice.
Yeah.
And walks off. And then Kirk gives Spock the order, full ahead, warp factor 1. But shouldn't that order have gone to the helm?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, they're all in the same fucking room. Helm ahead, warp factor 1. Anyway, he gave the order to Spock. I didn't understand that at all.
Yeah, because Spock is not the
right.
helm. He's over there. He's the science guy.
Right.
Anyway,
off they go. And the final shot is of Kirk looking like he's thinking about Miri in a creepy, smiley, grinning way.
I'm so cringed out about this, but I guess back then was okay or accepted or...
Well,
it couldn't have been accepted.
Let's start with that topic, because it seems like at the end, that little blip about, I never get involved with older women was their way to try to hand wave away. Well, she looked 13, but she was actually 300.
But even regardless, are we looking at time on Earth or time alive versus maturity?
Right.
Because I know
mentally she was still a child.
Yeah. Maybe 13 or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So I felt a lot of kind of ways about that whole thing this whole time.
Yeah. I don't know what Roddenberry was trying to do.
Right.
I mean, I guess maybe there's that whole that herd mentality thing where the kids, they don't have someone to guide them. And then they don't know their history, so they misinterpret everything. And so they don't have formal education, first of all.
Right.
So they only know from memory, and so they think that grown-ups are evil.
Right.
And they want to kill them. Bonk, bonk on the head. I mean,
again, it is very Children of the Corn in that way. Like the adults were the bad ones, and we had to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's all just a misunderstanding or they just misguided. But I can see that happening, like when people who don't know anything, they look for this leader to tell them what to do.
Yeah.
And then they just follow that leader blindly, even though he's a fucking psychopath. But they just like repeat after him. And I kind of see that happening today, with certain groups of people. Like a certain person says something and their followers think it's the truth. They don't need any proof. They're just like, okay, whatever he says, we're just going to repeat it. And we don't care how uneducated and ignorant we look. That was, I don't know, the kind of thing I guess that maybe Gene was trying to point out, is that people follow someone blindly when they don't know any better.
The other thing too is like, I wonder, how do the kids process like the older ones? Because I think what we saw in the episode was 2 and then the start of Miri, right? Because the very first thing was the trike, and that was a child ostensibly who was becoming an adult who was on the street, like freaked out and died.
Yeah.
So was that the leader at one point?
Because John is the oldest, so he's
right.
It's gonna happen to him.
Yeah.
And then
so
the ignorance just gonna keep.
Yeah, like what do these kids do as each one of the older ones gets the disease and dies?
The ignorance gets worse.
I think that's something they could have maybe spent more time exploring in the episode.
Yeah, and again, I think they should have said something like, "How can this be an exact replica of fucking Earth with the cars and everything?"
In my notes, I wrote, "This is not a humanist theme, but why is there an exact duplicate of Earth out there in the first place?
Yeah.
How did it get there? Was it artificially made? Like,
no idea.
I'm surely it couldn't have happened naturally, like to be that exact. Like, I get like, the logic of large numbers or whatever it's called, but also like they didn't even question it.
No.
Like, oh, it's a duplicate Earth. Okay, well, let's go down and check it out. But we didn't.
Why is it there?
We didn't explore it all. Yeah. How it got there. Why? There's more questions than there are answers.
Yeah.
For sure. I feel like maybe what they were trying to say in this episode was that line from Kirk that we didn't like about like kids crave their parents, whatever, like
guidance or something.
Yeah. Because I'm trying to think like, what the hell is going on in this episode? Big picture. What are we trying to say? And that's all I've got.
Because I don't even agree with that, what he said, though.
Right.
Because I don't agree that kids they probably need it. They need guidance and to be guided into what's right or what's wrong, but they don't really want it and they rebel all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
Yeah.
This one's weird.
Yeah. Well, now let's take a moment to honor the dead.
So the body count for this one is 2. And those were like the first no-name grup.
Mm-hmm.
And then Louise, the grup, so it was only those 2.
It's dead, Jim.
We are assembled here today to pay final respects to our honored dead.
We're going to honor the dead. May they rest in peace. The grups and the onlys in a struggle for control. The onlys were the children, and making the grown-ups pay was their main goal. But they were all just a part of a big experiment. Once they hit puberty, their death was imminent. 2 grups, one with no name and one named Louise. It was only a matter of time before they succumbed to the disease. So rest in peace to those 2.
I love it. It's a very poetic way to send them off.
Let's get right to business.
Fine, I'm authorized to pay an equitable price. Federation has invested a great deal of money in our training. They're about due for a small return.
Listen, we pay off percentages. We're entitled to a little service for our money, huh?
Is this the way your citizens do business? Their right of petition?
They pay their percentages and the boss takes care of them.
Is there anything else?
And then we want to thank our patrons.
Thank you, patrons.
You can become a patron at patreon.com/humanisttrek and pledge as little as $3 a month. It goes a long way to helping us support the show. And, of course, you can share out the episodes. There's a lot of free ways to help us get out there and grow the listenership. And you can share out the episodes and go on the platform where you listen to the show, Apple or Google or wherever, and give us a good rating and leave a review. I'm waiting for some fun reviews that we can read on air. I think that'll be fun.
I assume you're loitering around here to learn what efficiency rating I plan to give your cadets.
Trainees, to the briefing room. Is that all you got to say? What about my performance?
Aren't you dead?
I don't believe this was a fair test of my command abilities. There was no way to win.
There's no correct resolution. It's a test of character.
Now, what is that supposed to mean?
I am understandably curious.
May I ask you a question?
Who's been holding up the damn elevator?
Okay, so now let's bring Becca back in for the answer to this week's question for the episode Miri. And the question was...
This episode has 3 separate connections to the Andy Griffith Show. For at least 3 points, guys. What are those connections?
Okay, and we said... What were our answers? I said something about the sets. I remember that.
Yep. And I agreed.
Yes.
I said something about the actor, that one kid, that boy.
John?
Yes, John.
Yeah.
With the smushed nose.
Yeah.
Cute little button face.
Uh-huh.
I've seen him somewhere. He had to been on the Andy Griffith Show. And then...
And I think my other guess was something like a producer or somebody in the, like... I don't know. Did you record our answers?
Not really.
Okay.
You'll have to go back and listen.
Great.
I think.
How do I know if we won or not?
Yeah.
I guess we'll have to pause and go back and listen.
So it's a set, it's an actor, and then
all right,
maybe it's another actor, but I don't know which one it is.
What's the answer?
Okay, the third one is kind of hard. If you weren't really paying attention, you probably missed it. It was funny because when Sarah was watching it, I heard it and I went, oh, there it is. I wonder if she'll catch it.
Oh, shit.
It was a line.
An audio clue.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Okay.
So.
I mean, nobody was like, well, go.
No. It's a very, very subtle.
Did they?
Like, it's not a. It's.
Did they do the?
No. That would have been funny though. Okay. All right. So the first part, the outdoor scenes are shot on the streets of the set that stood in for the town of Mayberry. Visible are the old courthouse, the barber shop, feed and grain store, Walker's Drug, the bank, the grocery store, the grand movie theater, and then the building with the small porch that the crew runs into is the old Hotel Mayberry.
Oh.
Wow.
So I'll give you guys a point each for that one.
Okay.
The second one is Michael J. Pollard, who plays John, also played Barney Fife's bumbling cousin Virgil.
You got it.
Okay, I knew I've seen him.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
All right. So Allie's got 2. Sarah's got 1.
Good, you're catching back up.
And I can't give either of you a point for this one, but it is Kirk asks Spock to estimate in what time period the town seems to be, and Spock responds with 1960, the year the series debuted.
Oh,
the year that the Andy Griffith Show debuted was 1960.
Incorrect.
So it's a subtle.
That's so. Yeah, that was. I would never have gotten that.
I know. I can't give you all of them.
Nice.
Jesus. All right. Well, let's move on then and get the question for our next episode, which is Dagger of the Mind.
This is another possibility for you guys to get some extra points off from me later.
We like that. I do. I need it.
So I'll give you up to 3 points if you can get each different one.
Another 3-parter? Okay.
Yeah. This is the 2 of these are so easy, and if you didn't catch this,
all right, go ahead.
Disappointed.
Go ahead.
2 characters didn't appear in this episode. Who are they?
Wait, two
characters
didn't appear in this episode?
Did not appear in this episode.
Dagger of the Mind.
I mean, there's several characters who didn't appear in this episode. There was no Sulu.
Janice, no Sulu. Scotty was not there.
Yeah.
Sulu, I don't believe was there.
Okay, so
Janice
Scotty
definitely wasn't there.
Sulu.
Janice.
Oh, I don't know. I'm second guessing. Like, was she on the bridge at some point?
No, Janice wasn't. Uhura was though. Was she?
Get your answers all straight. I'll give you a point for each one that you identify that wasn't there.
You make me question everything.
I know. And then but I only have one reason for one character that wasn't there. So
okay.
But that's I'm asking for, there is a specific reason for at least one of them that might explain the absence of the rest of them.
Oh, what?
What?
Why would they cut people from us?
Because they had to pay for the guest star who.
Yeah. Oh, because the guy that he was a big actor. The guy that played Van, what's his name?
Yeah.
Was a big actor.
Yeah. So they had too many guest stars, and so they had to cut.
Scotty and Janice and.
Yeah, because we can't really say Chekhov because Chekhov doesn't exist yet, right?
I don't think so.
Okay, Scotty, Sulu, Janice. And it's because they had to pay for bigger actors. Final answer. Lock it in.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, join us next week to find out the answer to that question as we review Dagger of the Mind. If you want to play along, you go out to the social media and share what you think the answers are. They don't have to be right. They could be funny. No points. We'll just pick a winner, somebody we like, and give you all the bragging rights. Share that out with the hashtag Starfleet Challenge, and we'll pick our favorite. Next time on Humanist Trek, Season 1, Episode 10, Dagger of the Mind, a new treatment for the criminally insane has deadly results. I'm looking forward to this episode because I think we are both super opinionated about prison reform and the justice system and all of that sort of thing. Yeah. And I know we've sort of talked about some pieces of that before, so I think it's going to be good to have an episode that really kind of focuses in on that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So join us next week. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Live long and prosper.
Kapla!
Humanist Trek is available wherever you replicate your podcasts. Follow us on all the social medias at Humanist Trek. Become a patron at patreon.com/humanisttrek. Open hailing frequencies to podcast@humanisttrek.com and visit our website, humanisttrek.com. Humanist Trek is a production of Sarah Austin Media.